This is the Barbados Today morning news for Wednesday, December 11. Thank you for joining us. I am Mary Claire Williams. The Frederick Smith Secondary School will host the National Rally Against Violence today. All schools have been invited to participate in the event, which was planned in the wake of the stabbing death of a 16-year-old student by another student last month. Students will assemble at Jubilee Gardens in the city from 8:30, where there will be a number of speeches and musical presentations. It will be followed by a march from 10 o'clock through Lower Broad Street, High Street, Roebuck Street, and Crumpton Street before ending at Queen's Park. 1 month after heavy rains left their fields under flood waters, farmers at the Spring Hall Land Lease project in St. Lucie say they have begun the recovery process. When Barbados Today visited the area, some farmers said the damage was not as bad as they thought, and they were able to salvage a number of root crops. But one farmer, Raphael Gustave, cautioned customers that some vegetables may be in short supply.
There are not much peppers around, there are much not tomatoes around, right? And cucumbers is a shortage to a certain extent, right? Right? Things like melons, I didn't see nobody on the project have them, right? And around this time is the time we put in onions, right?
Right.
And I don't know if I can put in, because when you buy seeds, it's $185 a pound, and to plant it, and then you not have any guarantee that you can get water to bring these things through. I mean, you have to really step back and study this thing.
Minister of Industry and Commerce Dwight Sutherland says the time has come to approach the World Trade Organization for market space in a bid to save the region's flour milling industry. He was addressing the 23rd annual general meeting of the Caribbean Millers Association. Sutherland says despite the region's small market size, it still imports 900,000 metric tons of wheat flour annually from external suppliers.
There are 16 mills in the region, and those mills are competing with each other for the regional market. We recognize as a region, due to our multilateral obligations under the World Trade Organization, extra-regional imports are allowed into our space. As a result, the region is faced with approximately 900,000 metric tons of wheat flour that is imported annually. I say that this can be considered unsustainable in such a small space. The time has come, therefore, that we must confront our trade agreements head-on.
Sutherland added that the Caribbean Millers Association must therefore look beyond the region for potential markets.
So the government of Barbados is supportive and continues to be supportive of such an initiative in creating the policy space for our industry to flourish. And we are currently undertaking a study on the local manufacturing sector, seeking to rebuild the sector and to determine what policy interventions can be made to boost the sector's contribution to gross domestic product, not only through product development, but also in finding and penetrating export markets. The purpose is to preserve and expand employment levels and generate foreign exchange in manufacturing, and to make sure that ADM mills and the other manufacturers remain viable.
Head of the Barbados Alliance to End Homelessness, Kimar Safri, has welcomed the government's decision to broaden its oversight of charities. He says the public will now have first-hand account of how their money is being used. Safri told Barbados Today the integrity of his own organization has been questioned by some members of the public based on rumors, but he says they have filed their accounts every year. Meanwhile, spokesman for the Salvation Army, Major Denzel Walcott, says they are more concerned about the fall-off in donations for the organization's annual Christmas appeal. Kareem Smith has more.
Major Walcott, who now serves as a volunteer consultant to the Salvation Army after many years as public relations officer, told Barbados Today that unlike some other charities, the Salvation Army spends no more than 10% of its revenue on operational costs. As such, he sees no reason why the organization would have a problem complying with government's demands to disclose their sources of income as well as their regional and international links. The Attorney General, Dale Marshall, describing charitable organizations as high-risk vehicles for money laundering and financing terrorism, declared that unless certain basic minimum standards are met, the country risks being blacklisted by international organizations and/or jeopardizing critical correspondent banking links. Meanwhile, the Salvation Army is pleading with locals to use a portion of their increased income from back payments, Christmas bonuses, and even recent reverse tax credits from government to help offset the increased demand for charitable assistance. Kareem Smith for Barbados Today.
Some sports now. The Barbados Aquatic Sports Association says it is working to reduce its operating costs while carrying out further upgrades. President of the association, Tony Selby, says they received $75,000 in development funding from the Tourism Development Corporation during the 2019 financial year. He added that Barbados successfully hosted the Carifta Aquatic Championships this year, earning an estimated $1.8 million for the country, and they will be seeking further assistance from the TDC as they prepare to host the games again in April next year.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Root Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume reveler, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Thank you for staying with us. We're back with news from the region. The Bahamian government is looking to increase the minimum wage. We get the details from ZNS News.
The sector could soon see a minimum wage increase, according to Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honourable Peter Turnquest. His comments come on the heels of the nation's leader, Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Dr. Hubert Minnis, who announced government's plans last week. Turnquest says government recognizes that every working citizen deserves a minimum livable wage, and Cabinet is considering what it would look like and what government can afford.
We appreciate, and everybody must appreciate, that we have had a tenuous growth over the last 2 years. We don't want to do anything that is going to cause that growth to be stifled, or to for investors to lack the incentive because of increasing cost to invest.
Minimum wage was last increased in 2015 when it was raised from $150 a week to $210. Director of Labor John Pinder says consideration is now being given to raising it between $300 and $350 a week for the public sector, although Turnquest would not commit to a figure.
On the international scene, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Tuesday said Moscow wanted to publish a cache of communications with Washington that he said cleared Russia of allegations that it interfered in the 2016 U.S. election. But he says the United States has blocked the release. We get more in this Reuters report.
On Tuesday, Lavrov repeated his government's denial that they interfered.
All speculations about our alleged interference in domestic processes in the United States are baseless.
Pompeo politely disagreed, but seemed somewhat dismissive of the topic.
We think we've shared plenty of facts to show what happened in the 2016 election with our Russian counterparts. We don't think there's any mistake about what really transpired there.
He didn't say what transpired there. Mueller said the Trump campaign eagerly welcomed Russia's interference in 2016. Trump and some of his Republican allies in Congress have claimed without evidence that Ukraine, not Russia, was responsible for the hacking.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I am Maricla Williams. Good morning.